Hi everyone, good evening. This is Ramin Azar. I'm owner and operator of Flex to Success Clinical Rehabilitation Services. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and today I'm doing a video on gender dysphoria. What's gender dysphoria? Gender dysphoria is a marked incongruence between one's experience and expressed gender and their assigned gender. So if you're a boy and you feel disconnected from who you are and you want to be a girl, that's what they're talking about here. They're talking about you don't feel like you're in touch with who you are. If you were born a boy and you have a strong desire to want to be a girl, then that would be an incongruence. Important things to note for this particular disorder. So this has to last, this disconnection or confused feeling of which gender you want to be or not feeling like you're the right gender. It has to last for at least 6 months in duration. Also, according to the DSM-5, you must meet 6 criteria, starting with the first criteria, which is a mandatory criterion in order to be diagnosed with a disorder. So the first criteria, which is the most important, is a strong desire to be of another gender or an insistence that a person is of a different gender, other than the assigned gender that they are. So if you're a male and you have this really strong desire to want to be a female, and this lasts for 6 months, that gives you the right to be diagnosed with this particular disorder, gender dysphoria. If you don't have that criterion, then you absolutely cannot be diagnosed with this. It's like you just can't. And they're very strict with that for children and for adults. And there is a slight difference between the criteria for adults versus children. We will go over that later in the video. For now, I just want to go over the criterion for children to be diagnosed with gender dysphoria. The second criteria is cross-dressing as a boy or a girl. So if you're a boy and you're wearing dresses or skirts, that's what they're talking about here. If you're a girl and you're wearing like boys' jeans or, a male vest or a men's leather jacket or a men's t-shirt, that's what they're talking about here. They're talking about cross-dressing. So, it could be male to female or female to male. Doesn't really matter. Either way, you can meet that criteria. The next criteria is a strong preference for cross-gender roles in make-believe play or fantasy play. So when kids, if you've been around kids, you know that kids like to play make-believe. They like to do fantasy play. They like to pretend that they're living in a mansion and they're married and they have kids and they might have 6 stuffed animals, and each stuffed animal is like a make-believe kid, and then they're taking care of them, and it could be 2 girls, but one girl wants to be the boy in the relationship, and then she always wants the girl, her friend, to be the female, right? So if you see things like that could be a red flag that there might be some gender dysphoria going on. I wouldn't jump to any conclusions if that's the only thing that you see, but I would make note of it if it is something that you're noticing. The next criteria is a strong preference for toys, games, activities, videos that are widely used by a different gender other than your assigned gender. So if you're a girl and all you want to watch is like Batman or He-Man, He-Man's a throwback. That's from when I was a kid. A lot of you might not even know about He-Man, but I was a He-Man. I used to watch He-Man every day. But if you're a female and you're watching He-Man and Batman like all the time, that's a little weird. I would definitely want to look more into that. And I don't mean to say weird like in a bad way, but I mean it's not congruent to your assigned gender. That's basically what I'm trying to say when I say weird. I don't mean it offensively. So toys, activities, games, things of that nature. If it's male dominant and a female's trying to play with it, then that would satisfy that criteria. If it's female dominant and a male is trying to constantly play with those things, then that would satisfy the criteria as well. A strong preference for playmates of a different gender. So if you're a man or if you're a boy and you're constantly trying to make friends with girls and not guys repetitively, that's the key. It's got to be excessive and repetitive. If you're always trying to make friends with girls all the time, that's a red flag. Doesn't necessarily mean you have gender dysphoria if that's the only thing that you're seeing in your child, but it is something to keep note of. Remember, you have to have criterion A, Number one, which was the first one we went over, if you're going to be diagnosed with this particular disorder. So the next criteria is a strong rejection for toys, games, or activities that are appropriate for one's assigned gender. So, yeah, I mean, if you're a boy and you don't like to play with boy things, and you're constantly rejecting those things and don't want to play with those things, that's a red flag. If you have a He-Man doll and every boy in the world's been dying to have one of those, and you're the one that has it and you don't even play with the thing, you have no interest in that whatsoever, I would be like, hey, what's going on here? How come you don't like playing with He-Man? You're a boy. This is what boys like to play with. What's up? Right? And then you'd want to kind of watch your child and see how they develop at that point, because there could be a small possibility that maybe they do have some type of gender dysphoria. And, if you catch it early, you can get them treatment for it. So, the next criteria is a strong dislike of one's sexual anatomy. So this one's a little bit deeper. So if you have a penis and you hate the fact that you have a penis, or if you have a vagina and you wish you had a penis and you hate the fact that you have a vagina, I mean, that's right there. It's okay, this strong dislike had to come from somewhere, and it's definitely satisfies the criteria of gender dysphoria for this particular level. The next criteria is a strong desire for the primary or secondary sex characteristics of one's experienced or expressed gender. So, if you're a man and you constantly try to stuff your shirt to make it look like you have breasts, or if you're a female and you are constantly putting things in your crotch area to make it look like you have a penis. I mean, it sounds it sounds funny, but kids do these things. When they're experiencing gender dysphoria, that's what they'll do. They'll say, look, I have a penis. And, it won't be something that they do once in a while. If they're really going through gender dysphoria, this will be a repetitive behavior. And you'll see it over and over and over and over again. And it'll make you question, why is my child constantly trying to pretend like they have a penis when they're a girl? Why is my son constantly trying to pretend like he has breasts when he's a boy? As a parent, you have to notice these things and be willing to address them and have those tough conversations with your children about, how they feel and what's going on inside their head. It's not about being judgmental. It's not about attacking your child and telling them that, you don't approve of this, or it's inappropriate, or you're not happy about it, or, it's about really trying to understand, where this is coming from and if it's a real issue that needs to be treated, and that's really what, I mean, if it's something that needs to be treated, then you want to get it treated. If it's not something that needs to be treated, then you want to leave it alone. The difference between the male and the female, not the male and the female, the difference between the children and the adults, right? So we talked about going over that later in the video. What the difference is that male adults want to be treated as if they're the opposite or, gender. So, that's how the criterion differs a little bit. They don't talk about that with the children, because a lot of times children don't even know what they're experiencing. But a male adult or a female adult who's much older in age, they know exactly what they're experiencing. And if they truly believe that they're a different sex or a different gender, they're going to want to be treated as if they are that other gender. So if you're a man and you believe that you're a woman, you want to be treated like a woman. And if someone doesn't treat you like a woman, you're going to get upset about it. It's going to bother you. So there's a strong insistence there to want to be treated like the gender that they decided that they are. So the other one that's interesting when it comes to adults who experience gender dysphoria is they also, not only do they want to be treated as if they're the gender of their desire, but they also want to take it a step further sometimes and actually go through a sex change. And we call that PostTransition. So when you're willing to make that leap of turning yourself from a male to a female, they call that gender reassignment surgery. And you want to clarify that as a therapist, like what stage they're at. And I actually had a patient who went through this. I had a patient who I had to help navigate the system so that they could obtain gender assignment surgery. And this was their desire. And as a licensed clinical social worker, when someone comes to you and they tell you, I'm an adult, I'm making a conscious decision of what I want to do, I know the pros, I know the cons, I know everything that's involved in it, and I want to move forward with this, you as the social worker have to help them to navigate the system so that they can get what they want, because that's their desired goal. And I had to help this female get gender reassignment surgery so that she could become a male. And we talked about it, every detail, every step of the way. And it was successful. We were able to do it. But one thing that I've noticed in working with people who have this gender dysphoria is that once they go into what's called post-transition, when they actually go through a sex change, a lot of time in the beginning, there's like a period of time where they go through regret. And that's really, like, as a social worker, when you can do some really good work with someone when they're going through this. And it's frustrating because, like, as a therapist, like, when you're helping them navigate the system so that they can get this sex change or gender reassignment surgery, that they're going to go through this already. Like, you already know this is part of the process, and you try to warn them of it, but a lot of times they don't really listen to you, and they're just kind of, they have such a strong desire and focus to get this done. And then when they do it, it hits them, and they're like, oh man, this is what my therapist was talking about. Like, this is that. I feel this, like, strong sense of regret that I did this. And, did I do the right thing? And there's, like, a certain phase of confusion that the individual will go through. And then a lot of times it'll pass, and they'll just learn to be more comfortable in their new gender role. And bygones will be bygones, and they'll move forward. And that's great. Sometimes it doesn't go away, and the confusion and the regret persists. And then a lot of times what I'll notice is that they'll want to go back to the old gender that they were before, and they will actually make an attempt to try and do that by getting another gender reassignment surgery to go back. Whatever the client wants to do, as social workers, we have to help them make the best decision for themselves, and that has to come from them. But it can get because, like, now it's become more complicated. Now you have to let them know of the pros and the cons and the risks of going through that surgery for a second time, because now there might be more complications when they try to change back to the former gender that they were. So you want to make sure you let the client know of all those risks that are involved, and make sure that they're making a conscious decision on what they want to do. So you always want to clarify, is your client in post-transition, or are they in pre-transition? Are they contemplating getting gender reassignment surgery, or have they already gotten it and now they're trying to cope with it? All right. So that's my video on gender dysphoria today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like the video. Please subscribe. Please check out my other work. I do a lot of videos on, mental health awareness, and I'm just trying to kind of get the education out there so people can be well informed. All right. Take care and have a great night, everybody.